Well, welcome back. This is the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition March Madness series with Marnese Jackson. Today, we're going to be welcoming back our teammates, who is actually new to Midwest BDC. And for those who do not know who Midwest BDC is, we are a nonprofit officially, and we got started back in 2019 to eliminate fossil fuels in buildings by 2050 in the states of Indiana, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, not Mississippi. We can't go down that far. It's the Midwest. Michigan, Missouri, Minnesota, Ohio, and Wisconsin. And so, yes, it is a cold day in Michigan. It's snowing, and we're going to talk to our fellow Michigander, Eddie Davis, who is our Grants and Development Director. Here at the Midwest BDC, we do honor him as principles for democratic organizing, the climate justice principles, in the work that we do because we are plagued with high energy burden and environmental racism. So we have to center the individuals, peoples, and communities who are being impacted by these issues. So today we have Eddie Davis. And he's a new addition to our Midwest BDC team. I'm loving that we are doing this because it's all about lifting up your team members. It takes everyone to make a coalition work and coexist. So Eddie is definitely going to be a great asset to the team to move our regranting program forward. That's our program where we regrant out to community members and organizations to get the work done locally. And so Eddie is going to be spearheading that initiative. But then also Eddie's the person who's going to be making sure we stay employed. And bringing the money and bringing the money to the Midwest BDC. So we're counting on Eddie because fundraising is hard. So Eddie, tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself to the world.
Well, hello, everyone. Hello, Marnese, and thank you for having me today. My name is Eddie Davis. I'm, like you said, a Michigander. I wouldn't say born, but I am raised in Michigan, actually born in Boston, actually. But I've been in fundraising for the last 15 years. Started out in grassroots fundraising, went on to work in two separate institutions of higher education, my alma mater, Eastern Michigan University, but also to University of Houston. So I spent about 7 years in Texas, raising money down there. Also oversaw a family foundation as well. And then came back to Michigan just right before the pandemic hit. And I was working with Detroit Public Television, overseeing their fundraising and plan giving operation. And like most people during the pandemic, I wanted to make a shift in something. I felt like I was burned out from fundraising, so I got into lobbying actually. And I figured my love for politics and then my background with fundraising would go hand in hand. And so far, I've been in the fundraising space from the donor peer-to-peer donor relations, grant writing, and now the lobbying space. So have experience in all three, and I figure I can bring some of that information. I mean, some of that those skill sets over to this position, being a grants and development director with Midwest BDC.
Thank you, Eddie. So, like, with all that experience, why did you apply for a startup nonprofit position? Yeah, we have really did the work to get this nonprofit going, but what made you want to apply to something that's just starting up new? Like, why?
Well, I've been in a startup type position before. When I went down to University of Houston, that was a startup role, entrepreneurial role as well. And I think I always like to thrive or like to work in areas where it's brand new. Everybody's figuring things out, as we go, making those necessary um, changes or additions, taking away things, because everybody's learning on the same page. So everybody started at the same level. It's all, I think, it's always good. There's situations where you can have background or historical information to help you in the job thing, but also too, I think that those folks who thrive or those folks who are going out on the starting from scratch area, I think they learn more and they appreciate it a little bit more because they are doing the work on the ground level and having the highs and the lows with the team members that are there. And it takes a special kind of person that is okay with, having some successes, but also having some losses to understand the appreciation of it more in the long run. So I think that Me having that outlook on this opportunity, not knowing much about decarbonization before I got into it. I was always aware of climate change and green technology and all those sorts of things, and the funding that was there from a governmental standpoint, and the activism there. But I wasn't familiar from a standpoint of what was all entailed with it until the government rolled out the funding, the $2.8 billion last year for EPA and community grant funding.
Mhm. Yeah, and I know it's a reach when we're talking about building decarbonization. For those who don't know, and how is that related to climate change? We spend majority of our time indoors, and majority of the emissions that causes climate change is coming from indoor air quality.
Mhm.
So yes, gas appliances, the gas infrastructure is causing methane gas goes into
Mhm.
the air. So one, you're getting sick from indoor air quality, then it's going outside, which is causing the climate change to happen. So and climate change, for those who kind of don't recognize it, and global warming, one day it's 70 degrees in Michigan, the next day it's snowing outside like it is today, then
Correct.
next week it's going to be 50 degrees. So that groundhog, they lag. So we don't know what's going on, but so just FYI how that's related to climate change. So what's exciting you about this role? Coming from different experiencing, because you're fundraising. What gets you excited about talking about indoor air quality, climate change, and things of that nature?
I think the fact that there's so much opportunity in so many areas of where you can get have impact. I mean, I would look at it from a standpoint of, you can be the person on the front lines doing the activism piece. You can take your role as an educational person and talking about really educating folks in a either a town hall or a one-on-one conversation, webinars like this. But also you can look at it from a standpoint on you looking at the policy that's coming out from, like, it's only not only the federal government but locally, and with us overseeing or helping 8 different states. Each state's policy and legislative bodies have all different outlooks on what their role can be with this whole decarbonization piece. And so I think that from that standpoint, I like to be in the mix with seeing what different minds are thinking about. Sometimes there's some similarities across different areas, different states, but other times there's some differences, and sometimes you can pull from those things and say, "Oh, I didn't think about it from that way," or I thought about that, but I'm glad they were thinking on the same page and they expanded that view out, because I was really stuck on how we can make that impact. And sometimes it's good to see other folks doing the same work so you can go back and kind of, fine tune where you need to.
Yeah, yeah, because fundraising is really a touchy subject, going out talking about hard issues, right? Because in our coalition we're focused on equity,
Right.
low income to moderate income communities. We talk a lot about undoing white supremacy culture.
Yeah.
We talk about, lifting up black and brown communities in the work that we do. So, from where you sit, how do you make this more approachable to funders who just may not even understand the dynamic of what we're trying to accomplish?
I think a lot of times, funders, we underestimate what they do and don't know. What I've learned from my experience is a lot of funders. This is something that this is a little trick in the industry that I've always seen success from is no, when you're telling your story, you're pulling at the heartstrings of funders, and they really want to know those deep down testimonial conversations from people who are benefiting from the services, the dollars that they're putting in. A lot of times they get an annual report, or they get something like that where you're dressing up the highlights, but they don't get to see the real stories on the front line of who's being impacted by the resources that are being implemented, and what this does for them. Sometimes you can be looking at someone who's on the edge of poverty, or on the edge of being put out, or the lights cut off, and funding that will come through, and through the regranting process that we have with Midwest BDC, we've saved, I don't know, 100 people from getting their lights turned off, or their gas cut off or something like that. And sometimes these funders want to know those kinds of stories. Other times, that might fall into the area of where people might, look at it from a prideful. Well, I don't want anybody to know my business. Well, how else are you going to get funded? I mean, look, you fall on the sword, you almost have to, and it's okay. Nobody's judging, what it is you're trying to do. We're trying to help, and we're trying to allow for that to be an opportunity for you to, hey, tell your story. We are a startup, and so they know that we're gonna have some hurdles and we're gonna have some challenges, but the fact that we're open book and we're transparent about the things that we're trying to really get down in the weeds and help those who are really in need of it, those are usually the organizations that really get the most dollars out of everything because you're transparent. And the more transparent you can be, the more funders like to see that and say, okay, look, I can give you this right now, but let me see where else we can pull dollars from or who else I can loop in and help you kind of get to your goal.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying all that because it's good to hear from the other side of and having the end game, like because a lot of people just don't know that. So you know that we have our regranting program here at Midwest BDC, and this is really what excites people about our coalition because we're able to regrant out, and the process is very simple. We don't require a lot for individuals to come in and participate. Of course, we want as we expand the program people and organizations to do something. That's how we're going to make real impact locally. So, what is inspiring to you about the regranting program? What are there any projects that stands out to you the most, and how do you look to take that to the next level?
Well, I think that this is where historical data is going to come in handy in seeing, the types of people who apply for the funds. You have I'm sure you have your individuals, but you also have some of your smaller organizations, your medium sized, and also your larger organizations, and you want to see who is duplicating efforts. And also, too, I like to do a little sleuthing, if you will, a little Sherlock Holmes activity, and say, okay, now you're coming back for round two, maybe round three. Are you actually using the money for this, or are we, just giving out money? Because we want to make sure that we are doing the work and spreading out the funds as far as we can spread them. And I think that from a standpoint of us being new, and we're touching 8 different states, we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance at the funds. And I'm not opposed to actually picking up the phone and calling some folks and say, hey, look, I noticed that you have this profile and you have this want and or need. What do we have to do to get you to apply for the funds? We've extended the deadline. I can walk you through the grant process. Do you not, if you have some issues where there's some clarity needs, I can definitely do that. But I'm willing to get in the weeds and really help folks get access to this money so we can show our funders that we made every opportunity to get this money into the folks. And I don't want to leave. I'm a person who doesn't want to leave no stone unturned. I want to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to get access to these funds because because I'm a person who says, look, you had an opportunity and we did everything and you still didn't respond. So hey, look, what do you want me to do?
So okay, so look, I just got off of the call because with a couple of grant recipients about what's required because sometimes the grant cycle last time had some strings attached to it, and it's going to be promoting the Healthy Homes project here in Michigan. So that's just one of the projects that got awarded, and sometimes it's hard to as much as we think we're providing resources, because that's what coalitions do, provide resources, technical assistance, as much as we think we're applying the things that they need with talking points, sometimes I feel like we are missing the mark. So, Eddie, now that I think about it, you are kind of like an organizer, just what you just said.
Yeah.
Like, do you think you can identify some better practices? Like, just, thinking about it from an organizer perspective, like what can we do for best practices? And because you're out here talking to other people who may think about regranting out because we thought our process was simple,
Yeah.
but maybe it's I don't know.
I think I think it goes back to the messaging and having everybody on the same page.
Mhm.
When you're looking at it from a standpoint, when it's not going to be just me on the granting piece, it's gonna, I've learned in this position, I'm going to have a team behind me in terms of a committee, work group, if you will.
Mhm.
And in talking to them, we looked at applications, making sure that the applications were pretty streamlined. I think that when you're looking at it from a standpoint of you want to make it, if this was something that it was, you're looking at a web page or something like that, you want to have as less clicks as possible when it comes to things like this. So if you're going on a page and they're filling out the survey and it's maybe 10 straightforward questions, bam, 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 hit submit. If it's asking for a certain information, you keep it, just to that information, hit submit. If, sometimes you want to make sure that people are able to take advantage of it being efficient over informative. Sometimes, people, when you start asking for too many questions, people get frazzled. People really get they get they get up in arms, if you will. They get distracted, and you get a negative experience, and then you start getting the negative feedback. So I think efficiency is key, and allowing for people to be more engaged in the process on what that looks like will go forward in the long run.
I hear you. I hear you. So okay, we're gonna move forward to dreaming big. Okay. What would you like to see? We're gonna say in 5 years, okay? I'm all about sustainability and going to 10 years, but in the next 5 years, what do you hope to see the coalition doing? Dream big. Dream big.
Well, I would like to see us putting on conferences, not only here, like, well, we're putting on a conference at, our local convention center here in Detroit, Michigan,
Mhm.
right on the riverfront. We're hosting a energy conference talking about decarbonization, how you could take advantage of the opportunities that are not only locally in your state or your city or county, for that matter, and also to the federal government, how you get access to funding, put on workshops, and we're doing presentations on educational opportunities. And also, too, we have a robust fundraising operation where we are partnering with some of the largest foundations and granting organizations in the United States and also the world. I think there's opportunity abound with climate change and the things that are going on with the support that's coming from not only foundations but also countries as a whole. Everybody has this on their front end because they know that um, the longer the quicker we take care of this, the longer we got on this earth. Because like you said, 70 degrees one day and then it's almost blizzard conditions the next morning. I mean, that's not normal at all.
Like, and I feel like when I'm just explaining climate change, I'm like, do you think this is normal? Does that sound okay to you?
Yeah,
Like,
politics be aside, a
yeah,
lot of people will say, well, that's just no, that's not. Scientists will say that, and it goes back to, and I have several friends who work in this, the area of the sciences, and they're saying that no, this is not normal at all. The emissions that are coming out from nuclear power plants, the fracking going on in the Gulf of Mexico, down in southern United States, all that stuff has an impact on the world and the globe as a whole.
mm.
The glaciers that are melting at a rapid pace than ever before, all that is impacting our environment. Even our Great Lakes have a lower sea levels than normal. I mean, come on now, that's crazy.
And I want to lift up something that Kwasi said, and shout out to everyone who's watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Share this information because it's very important. As Eddie just said, like the planet will be here, but we won't. Kwasi said that we woke up to snow after a dry winter. Like I didn't
Yeah,
grow up in Michigan where we had a dry winter.
yeah.
We had snow.
Yeah, we had snow.
So
The whole joke about the joke, and Marty, you can appreciate this having kids is I remember the joke was always, man, we used to walk to and from school in 2 feet of snow. What's all of this canceling of schools for a light breeze? I mean, yeah, like we still went to school with it blizzard conditions. Now it's like, well, we don't want to put kids in danger, and it's barely snowing. It's just freezing the pipes. Come on now, seriously.
you know what? I'm not even going to get started on that whole dynamic of me telling because I had to walk all the way down
Mhm,
to Webster Elementary
mhm,
with your uncle, and he's younger than me, and it was cold. We
mhm.
get all the way around the corner, and here come my dad picking us up. Like You didn't see that weather out there, Dad? We get all
Yeah.
the way around the corner.
Yeah.
And it was just snowsuits, gloves full, everything. I was like, y'all don't know what it's like. How do
No.
y'all know what it's like?
No.
And then that's okay. They made us tough.
Mm-hmm.
So it's whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to say thank you so much for that. But Eddie, outside of, fundraising, lobbying, the things that you do professionally, what is your passions outside of work? Because trying to save the world, the environment, it's very taxing.
It
So
is.
what do you like to do? Tell the world about you, Eddie.
Well, I'm a sports fanatic. I love sports. I do go. I take trips to different stadiums to go check out different sports teams. So I just knocked off a bucket list item and went down to Lakeland, Florida recently to check out the Detroit Tigers, our local baseball team here in Detroit. See the prospects for the season, which opening day is coming up in less than 2 weeks. And I hope we don't have conditions like today because I'm not sitting in them stands. Although I will be tailgating, I'm not sitting in those stands with snow on the ground. So that live music definitely. I'm always good for a jazz concert or something like that. I am although several people have told me I need to chill out on this because they're worried about my health, but I am a cigar aficionado and I love cigars. I've been smoking cigars off and on since 2010. Yeah, I do fancy cigars and have traveled to some pretty nice cigar lounges around the country. I think that I'm slowly, as I'm getting up there in age, I'm slowly looking at okay. When the doctor says to me, "Well, you have a good bill of health," when I do my yearly exam, but he's like, "Ed, how many cigars are you smoking this time?" Well, every year I pare it down, so I'm down to about one, or so, maybe a day, but I don't know how many days per week. Everybody has their little thing they escape to, and sometimes you need it. I don't drink. So I don't really like the taste of alcohol. So I figure, if I'm not gonna have a drink, I may have a cigar. But that's just I I know that in the long run it's not good for you to do that. So it's good to kind of pare that down and make sure that you're in moderation. Sometimes you need a support or an outlet to do that. So
So I totally agree with you. Also have to monitor your health, okay?
correct.
Because we want
Correct.
to keep you here. We want
Correct.
those lungs to be tight.
Correct.
And lung cancer is a real thing,
It
okay?
is.
Shout out to those lung cancer survivors.
Mhm.
And cigar bars they stink, but they really have like the best.
Drinks, what?
They have the best drinks and food. Like, look, I'm not going. Look, I remember I
Oh
went to a
God.
cigar bar with a couple of social justice activists.
Uh-huh.
It was very nice. It was a
Good.
very nice
Yeah.
spot to be in, but I had to wash my hair after that because
Yeah, most friends when I invite them out to that, they're like, yeah, no, I'm not going. We'll meet somewhere else." I'm like,
it's
okay.
nice. It's nice though. But I know the one in Detroit, they have like an outdoor situation going
Yep.
on.
Have a
So
tent. Yep.
yeah, but the drinks are
Mhm.
really good. So
Yeah.
you know,
And one more thing I wanted to mention real quick, I think about outlook on where Midwest BDC can be is the fact that I feel like, the opportunities for the funding piece, we can be an organization that is getting funding, either triple the amount of we have now, if not more, just because of the fact that with the impact that we have over 8 states. So you're
Mhm.
looking at 8 different pots of money of funding and opportunities. Where a lot of times I've learned from my previous years in fundraising, where a lot of foundations go without giving out their money because they don't have anybody to give it to.
Mhm.
Nobody knows about their fund. So once somebody happens upon them, and you can convince them of the storyline that you have, there's always some diamonds in the rough or some hidden gems out there. So I'm looking forward to really discovering that in the different areas. And I'm going to do some traveling
Mhm.
with this position to each state, each one of our 8 states to establish those relationships.
Well, thank you, Eddie, so much, Coach. So show us the money, and I love the vision, the long term vision, because look, I do feel the same way. We couldn't be that coalition to really take this to the next level in regards to indoor air quality. So I'm going to let you head out because we're going to prepare for our next March Madness podcast series with our next staff person. It's going to be Maggie Heiser up next. So Eddie, it was so nice talking to you.
You too.
This has been a very long day, long week for all of us. And we showed, look, it's a podcast, so we can just kick it. You know, we always looking a hot mess earlier today. We had on hoodies, looking like we just woke up, but we transformed
Yeah. Hey, look.
We look good. We look.
I wasn't able to get the lineup in enough time because of the weather, but you know we're gonna take care of that this weekend.
It's okay. It's all right. We know how to represent. We can put on some clothes. So we go welcome Maggie up next. So Eddie, you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you again, Marnese.
Shout out to everyone for listening in. But just before we let Eddie go, we gonna let Maggie come in next. But next week we're going to finalize our March Madness podcast series with our team members, Terry Cush, operations associate or director, and our administrative associate, Dana Gibson. And we do have some upcoming events. Next Thursday, we're hosting a training on climate anxiety and mental health. You can register by visiting our website at midwestdecarb.org events/events. And if you'd like to get involved with the coalition, please contact one of us and we will get you oriented on how to get involved and get to work. We are a working coalition, so we do what we say we're going to do, and we're going to be expanding within the years to come. So look forward to our events and look to seeing you on the next podcast. All right.
Thanks, Marnese. Have a good one.